Hey guys, what's up? Episode 4 of the Techno Podcast. After a long break and a visit to Ohio, we're going to be talking about how you can see how the cake is once again a lie in higher definition with RTX DLC for Portal. So pretty crazy stuff right now. Um, we're talking about some insane specs. The game does look nice graphic wise, right? I don't know if we have any gameplay tweaks, right? But
No, it's
um,
actually just a mod that goes over on
it's just
top.
yeah. So it's like Quake, I'm guessing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Quake was like kind of a ground up redesign. This is supposed to be
Oh, just
kind
on
of a
top.
mod that goes on top because it's supposed to show off that like mod creating software that they're releasing called RTX Remix.
Okay.
So that's what's going on. But it's definitely a little bit better than RTX Remix because they made it. It wasn't like user generated. But yeah.
Yeah. So we're also it's also I think supposed to be kind of the Halo product, not Halo product, but like a showcase of DLS S3, right? Because it is
Yeah.
featured and it's supposed to be a little wow factor, yeah. Almost three times the increase in frame rates, right? So,
Mhm.
but I mean the
Yeah.
specs are looking crazy. If you
Mhm.
minimum is a 3060, and they're also recommending a 3600 for CPU, which I feel like is a bit
And
low.
when we say minimum, we mean minimum. So that's for
Min
1080 30. So for 1080 60, which is like where most people want to be, you need a 3080, which is and it's still the same Ryzen 5 3600 on the CPU side. A 3080 is like really powerful for actual what should be the actual minimum spec cuz nobody wants to play on 30 FPS on PC.
yeah,
For
I would.
Ultra, which is their
Mhm.
4K 60, you need a 4080 and then 16 gigs of video and memory. And they also recommend 32 gigs of like normal RAM, which is unheard of. Also, they have insane specs for the CPU 12th gen i7 or a Ryzen 9 from 5th gen.
That's your 5900. Yep.
So, the biggest thing to me, right, like this is obviously going to be a very hard game to run, but the 32 gigs recommended on the Ultra, like preset, quote unquote. Now, most people won't run it 4K 60. I feel like most people would rather run it at 2K at like 120, but 32 gigs of video, of system memory.
RAM.
What do
Yeah.
you think about that? Because we have not seen many games take advantage of more than 16 gigs of RAM up until now.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised at that 32 gigs because obviously most games aren't going to do that. I don't even know
Mm-hmm.
most software. That's like I feel like the only software that really takes advantage of 32 gigs, right? Is if you're doing stuff like what, CAD, I guess, or video editing.
Chrome. No, yeah, CAD.
Chrome, yeah. But
But like
like
in the gaming side, like 16, like you literally
16
saw
has
like
been
almost
fine.
no
Yeah.
uplift by going to 32 in most situations.
Only game I see 32 is Minecraft, modded Minecraft, but that's another
Yeah, that's its
beast.
own beast.
But like I just feel like either they're just expecting to just have a bunch of stuff cached on RAM to increase
Mm-hmm.
performance, but then I feel like with a
Mm-hmm.
mod, like there's no way they're doing that with a mod. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that would be a source engine um
Yeah, well, I use the
implementation.
word
Yeah.
mod too loosely. It's actually like a
A
DLC that you can
DLC,
get
yeah.
for free if you already own Portal.
But that's even worse if you think about it. 'Cause DLC, if someone tells me DLC, I'm thinking it's more limited than a mod, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's insane 32. I want to see what comes out December 8th in a week. So we'll
Yeah.
see how if 32 is really needed because definitely I guarantee the benchmark is going to be whether you actually need 32 or not on it.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing really that much surprising, I guess. I mean, yeah, 4080 is recommended.
Yep.
Uh, Hard drive space. It only takes up 25 gigs, honestly. Thought it would be more. Usually this like when you're talking about like
Portal's a really old game.
that's true, but you also remember they revamped the textures as well. Like everything is in
Yeah.
this like I don't do you remember like Rainbow had like a 4K option, right? Like the 4K texture pack. Rainbow
Oh, and it
Six
took up a
Siege.
lot more storage. Yeah.
Yeah, that I think if I can fact check that real quick, it was definitely around there, 25 or whatever, I guess.
hmm
Was it? Yeah, I think
Well,
okay, so
Portal is also
mm,
not an extremely long game,
that's true, yeah.
and
It's a
not
lot of
even
repeated
also that
assets, yeah.
a lot of repeated assets. It's built with
Sure.
repeated assets. So
Yeah, minimum is 30 gigabytes for the texture pack.
Rainbow.
The HD, Ultra HD texture pack, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's a lot
recommended,
more
yeah,
assets in
47,
Rainbow than there are in Portal.
definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I want to definitely see how that is. I think it's gonna be like a little gimmicky. Not gimmicky, but like it's gonna be something that's cool, you know what I mean? It's like Quake. Like Quake, it
Yeah.
was kind of like a like oh cool, like we can do this, right? But then like
hmm
not, I mean, kind of just fades out. Obviously
Yeah.
not,
It's
I
it's
mean,
it's kind of
yeah,
one of those things where it's like it's a nice tangible thing because it's their showcase, right?
yeah,
But it's not like they're like marbles or RC car showcase where like to a gamer it means absolutely nothing. Like you're flexing the power of it, but realistically, other than to engineers, it means absolutely nothing. So the nice thing about like adding it to a game is one, you're able to get a stark contrast for marketing of how much ray tracing can improve a game's visual fidelity. So that's kind of the big part of it.
yeah. We'll see.
Because like Quake
I
was
mhm.
sick. Like
Quake was
seeing
nice,
those
yeah.
like when they're in a dark hall and seeing the bullet and how like it lights up the hall as it goes past. That was so cool.
Yeah, I don't, I'm trying to remember. I guess Quake lends itself to being better with DLSS or like not DLSS, ray tracing, right? It's just like
Mhm.
talking about all the action and stuff, right? Like really it's where you immerse yourself. Like
Mhm.
Portal just does not feel like a game to me that like it will look good with RTX, right? Or not with RTX, with
Yeah, ray tracing.
yeah, ray tracing, yeah. Yeah, RTX.
Mhm.
I'm dumb, yeah, RTX.
Yeah, the
But
big thing is going to be
mhm,
illumination, which always is a
yeah,
big thing, but also I'm like curious to see how reflections work cuz that's also a big thing with ray
that's
tracing is
true.
reflections. But
Yeah,
that's one of those things where like and also there's a lot of things that glow in Portal. So that's actually going to be really cool because there's a lot of
that's
stuff
true.
with like
Mhm.
the portals themselves obviously have luminance, the box has luminance. So like that is definitely something to look out for. Pivoting off of that, we're going to switch to something like completely different. We had got a couple of phone topics. So the biggest one is one of those ones where it's definitely we're not going to give our opinions too much on it because it's probably pretty political, but Apple is changing AirDrop where you're no longer allowed to AirDrop to everyone in your area. And there's a 10-minute cooldown on it, and you only have 10 minutes to do it. I don't know how long the actual cooldown is. This is in like wake of protests in China against what's going on over there. And this is actually going to roll out to everyone in the world soon. So we can't really give our opinions about the China part, obviously. But how do you feel about them taking features away due to pressures of a foreign government? Because this isn't the first time we've seen Apple do something like this. Because their privacy laws are only when they say how private they are, blah, blah, blah. That's only at the moment. They're actually subject to change whenever they want if a government asks them for
That's
information.
true. I
So, how
feel
do you
like
feel
it.
about them being able to market themselves as like this stand up company and like that when they do stuff like this?
I feel like it undermines like what they've been trying to do. Like it's a step back from their policy of like, well, it's not to the same extent, but it was the same as we're not making backdoors for the FBI. Like we're not making
hmm
backdoors for any federal government. And now I feel like we're not honestly. I want to say that the airdrop is not the same extent as backdoors, but it's
No,
still
definitely not.
like it's what's it's called. It's intention, right? It's that they're changing the way they operate, changing the way they're doing work
hmm
in response to a foreign government or like just a government in
Yeah.
general. And
Mhm.
I feel also that is slightly concerning the US. I feel like that would also concern the US that they're
Mhm.
Apple's willing to just do that for China. So
Mhm. Well, they're willing to do a lot of stuff for China. We've seen in the past.
that's true, yeah.
But this is particularly scary considering that they're actively going out of their way to censor people's speech. It's not even a privacy thing because whether you like it or not, privacy isn't really real anymore, and that's changing every day, and it's going to get worse than every day. This is actively going out of your way to censor speech and the propagation of news. So
That-
this is
yeah.
this is pretty bad looking. But that's all we can really say on that for now. I think within two more updates, we're gonna get it rolled out to everyone. But
Two more
next
like
top, yeah.
major release updates or like
No. Like
okay,
points. So
yeah.
16.1 or 16.2 is
Okay,
gonna
got
have
you,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. That's pretty much all we can say on that. So our next topic is also a phone one. We have Xiaomi with uh basically. So it wasn't in the United States. It was in China, but they had a poster, like a design that was alluding to the uplifts in performance for the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Did you want to go over those real quick?
Yeah, so I'm a pretty big fan of Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, right? I mean, we have switched from Samsung to TSMC, and obviously it's showing its muscle there. But
Mm-hmm.
so Xiaomi basically confirmed what, oh gosh, if I can read the image. Yeah, with 37% increase on CPU, 42% increase on GPU.
Yep.
So liking those numbers. Um, I don't know if Xiaomi phones have active cooling. Do you know? Or
No phones really have active cooling other than the ROG phone.
okay.
Uh, but they do test them in best cases and they do test them in short, jumpy workloads. But for some context, a 37% increase over the Gen 1 or Gen 1 Plus would have put it roughly um like right under Apple's current flagship, the A16 Bionic. 42% increase in GPU is big though. That completely passes up the A16 and passes up Tensor. So it's going to be very fast in GPU and it's going to be still really fast in CPU. My only concern is, as always, can they keep it efficient? Because the 8 Gen 1 was horrible with efficiency and they kind of fixed it with the 8 Gen 1 Plus. So, did you want to go over some of the stuff on the GPU side though?
Yeah, so basically I think uh the CPU obviously really good still, but we're not talking about the best of the best, right? The GPU rumored is that it's the best GPU on the market. Like
Mm-hmm.
insane what it can do, right? But then
Mm-hmm.
so for perspective, so when this was on computer base, they ran a benchmark. It was one of the Ultra 3D, not Ultra 3D. Is that what's called? The 3D
Time
Mark.
Spy. Oh, 3D
Like one
Mark.
of those,
Okay.
yeah, 3D Mark. It was one of their Ultra ones that they used.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a 1 minute benchmark. And they got 4,000. This 4,000 points. For
Mm-hmm.
reference, a 1050 Ti is around 5,000. And so we're
That
talking,
is
it's
insane.
phenomenal because 1050 Ti is a 75-watt card, right? Like it's only PC.
Yeah.
So you're talking about what, maybe a tenth of that, right? 7.5, let's say 10, right? For just
Mm-hmm.
sake. We're talking about almost like such a small power package, but then we're almost matching like previous desktop GPU performance. So obviously, the way that I mean, I'm just surprised. We're thinking about what 1 to 2 generations that we're gonna match a 1050 Ti on a phone. Obviously, the
Mm-hmm.
1050 Ti, is gonna
It's
beat it
it's
long
yeah.
term, but like for the 1 minute that it was able to do that, I'm definitely
Mm-hmm.
excited. I want to see if they come out with the Snapdragon 8 Gen Plus 8 Gen 2 Plus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, that's gonna be interesting. I feel like that CPU.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just hoping they keep it efficient. I'm not particularly sure if it'll actually be that fast. in relation to
Yeah.
a 1050. I doubt it. But there's
Hmm.
there's so many things into calculating that because you have to bring in OS differences like Android versus Windows or Linux. You have to bring in the CPU. The CPU is not going to be anywhere close to the CPU that you would pair with the 1050.
That's true. Yeah.
So like even if that's a fictional number altogether, which also it is a leak benchmark, so you have to take with a grain of salt. Like it is pushing forward the power of phones quite a bit on the GPU side,
That's
which is
true.
impressive to see. And this is something that's like pretty cool because what we noticed is after Pixel ditched Qualcomm and then like they got into kind of like beef on Twitter and all that, Qualcomm's been like steadily improving by larger margins than they had before. I genuinely did not like Qualcomm and their products for a long
I didn't,
time.
me either.
The 8 Gen 1 was a cool fresh start, but it was still wildly hot and inefficient. The 8 Gen 1 Plus and the 8 Gen 2 are looking to be really promising. And if we're starting to catch up to Apple in CPU performance, that's great. I don't really care about speed. All I want to see is efficiency.
No, yeah. But I feel like definitely what was like a major um reason for this to happen with Qualcomm is basically Microsoft got pissed at them, right? Because they
Mm-hmm.
when Microsoft tried to do their Windows for ARM, right? That the M1 was just destroying it and everything, right? Like the M1 was running Windows like ARM for Windows applications faster
Mm-hmm.
on a Mac than a Windows computer, right? Because just Qualcomm literally could not give them a good enough chip to use in their like is it the
Yeah,
Surface, I think, right? Or whatever laptop
it is the
line it
Surfaces,
was,
but
yeah.
it's not the Surface Book. It's just called the Surface.
The Surface, yeah.
Specifically, the Surface. What's it called? The Surface something X. The Surface Book. No, Surface Laptop X. Because
Okay, that
that
sounds right,
one,
yeah.
yeah, because that one is the one that comes with mobile connectivity like LTE and whatnot,
Okay.
and so it was easier for them to put in a phone chip, and I'm pretty sure they got rid of it.
No, exactly. That's because also just Qualcomm severely under delivered on that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then obviously they got, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure they were in a lawsuit over their modem. Do you remember that? Like it was a long time ago. They had
I
like,
actually don't.
I think they were like in some lawsuit or some like legal trouble about their modems. Cause I think just the way it was, because like the obviously Apple, I think
Mm-hmm.
Apple was pissed off at them because the Qualcomm modem was just not like I don't remember the details because it was a long time ago, but I feel like I'm just misremembering it, but it I remember reading a lot about it. Yeah. Oh, Qualcomm patients, yeah. Qualcomm has sued Apple for infringement
Mm-hmm.
on modem thing because then also I remember Intel had some also other stuff. So I feel like it definitely was like Qualcomm definitely was like we need to step up here. Actually have a product worth delivering. You know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
they definitely
Yeah.
were just like the black sheep when it came to just like anything technology based for a long time. And
Mm-hmm.
then
They
also,
had
yeah,
like such a strong foothold in the Android phone market,
yeah,
but people just were like not happy with them because I don't know if we can put it all on them, but there was a long time where it felt like because of their lack of super high end efficient performance on their processors that Android phones fell behind quite a bit. And it was kind of the turning point was around like the iPhone 10 and then the 11 Pro was when the gap became huge because up until then they were either competitive or Android was winning. It was mainly just a branding thing since like the iPhone 5. So since like the 10, they've been on a consistent losing streak. So,
no, yeah. But also another thing, I feel like what's also because I remember this might have been on one of like the podcasts that is part of the archives now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I remember I feel like I definitely talked about this. This has been like a very like if you look at what Google has done for Android, right? You've had Project
Mm-hmm.
Treble, Project Mainline, right? And a bunch of whatever other projects and where they're trying to make the Google Play services, right? Where they're trying to detach like certain core parts of Android
Yeah.
from the kernel and stuff, so then it's able to be updated without having to go through the whole, whoever made the CPU, whoever made the phone, and then through the provider, like your cellular provider,
Yeah,
before you
you
get to
did
update.
definitely talk about that.
Yeah, and so now Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 got announced, right? And then within a couple days after that happening, we were already getting patches on the Linux kernel for that, which is a
Mm-hmm.
complete flip from a few years ago. Because Google has been pushing for this obviously with mainline, and now that like a chip like Qualcomm is on the Linux mainline, means
Mm-hmm.
that developers are going to be able to uh look at it and like code stuff with it earlier. And
Mm-hmm.
also upstream support is really good for Android because that means just with updates and stuff, you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
do anything fancy. You don't not fancy, but like it becomes very much easier just to update Android, update security stuff, which I feel like is
Gotcha.
yeah, you know what I mean? That's also
Mm-hmm.
like a really big point for Android because if Google can start pushing updates as fast as possible and like other like let's say Samsung, I know Samsung said I don't think I don't have that much details about it, but I remember they just briefly said we want Android 14. Android 14 is going to come out faster on Samsung phones than is Android 13 did, right?
Mm-hmm.
So definitely if like we see a company like Samsung, right, push out Android 14 super fast or we start seeing longer updates, that's going to be a really good selling point for Android, I feel like. I feel like this really is like a huge turn. Like this
Yeah.
Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 is what's going to make is like the start of maybe Android market share increasing in the USA.
Yeah, for sure. I think you know, also being in the retail space recently, the Pixel has been selling well. And a lot of that
That's
comes down to Google, one, aggressive marketing. Like this year, you can't go anywhere without seeing a Pixel ad, which is crazy. And two, uh, they have been putting them on fantastic prices, and carriers have been getting fantastic promotions for them. So that's definitely something to look out for. Uh, and then people just love the phone because it just feels nice. So we could definitely see a shift here. But obviously, time will tell with that. And it's nice that it doesn't feel like the companies are all fighting against each other anymore and putting things backwards. But yeah, you want to move on to some like the desktop hardware stuff?
yeah, so let's start. We have a good chunk of stuff on laptops, right? So let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about everyone's favorite laptop, the G14, right? And its brother, the M16, right? So we got
Yep.
some leaks because I think they had to submit some stuff to Korea's radio thing, like some radio
Mm-hmm.
certification. And so
Yep.
basically, M16 guaranteed, not I won't say guaranteed, but most likely Intel and Nvidia combo. And then we're seeing upgraded camera. And
Mm-hmm.
then I don't think there's that much more updates on M16. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? I
Yeah.
think we kind of
Well,
got
we
yeah.
actually don't know if it's an upgrade or a side grade on the camera. We just know that it's a different module. But
Okay,
assuming that they did the right thing, it should be an upgrade on the
should be an
webcam.
upgrade. Yeah. And then I don't know, do you know if the M16 had um what's that called? Windows Iris or like Windows Hello? Or no?
I'm pretty sure they both did, but I can't confirm that.
Okay, but definitely I feel like if they did upgrade and we didn't have it last on this current gen, I feel like that's the
Mm-hmm.
upgrade path to go. But I feel like obviously cameras, like web cameras, are like more important on laptops right now because we're just like this whole virtual, you know, meetings,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, school, Zoom, like a good web camera is like a good thing to have
Mm-hmm.
now. Obviously, like I don't think it was that important back then, but now it's a good thing to have. Like it's more
Yeah.
important. But then, so
Also, there's
yeah,
some models that have proven that you don't need to take up too much space to get a good looking webcam. A lot of it just comes down to them caring because obviously resolution's not going to be great and you're not going to get like bokeh or anything because the sensor is
hmm
large. But like some webcams just have like terrible color science out of the box. Like that's not something that is like expensive to fix. It just takes care. Like it
no, for
takes like
sure.
a will to fix it. So that's a big thing.
Yeah, and then we also uh G14, right? What
Yep.
bums me out about this one is that we don't, first of all, we don't know anything about the GPU, right? But it's not guaranteed Zen 4. We might have a Zen
Yep.
3 CPU, since the new naming scheme does give us some more hints on what the CPU is, right?
Hmm.
But I'm just extremely bummed out that we're gonna have a
Well,
new
I wouldn't be
G14.
bummed out just yet
That's
because
true.
it's not guaranteed as in they haven't finished the design yet.
Mm,
It's as in the pictures that were leaked. Uh, so AMD's new naming scheme, it's really dumb, but it will go 7 7, and then it will either have a 3 or a 4 as the fourth out of the third digit, right? The 3 would mean Zen 3 plus, the 4 would mean Zen 4. The issue is the picture was blurry enough where we could see the 7 and 7, but we could not see that third digit. So
true.
whatever's in there is already in there.
Yeah.
It's just, will we get a better picture before release or will we just be shocked at release? Or
Yeah.
we'll definitely get like some information before release. But as of right now, we don't know which one. But if I had to take a guess, I'm saying Zen 4
I
because
hope
the
so, yeah.
G14 has been AMD's pinnacle for a long time, for since about 2019 now. And last year they joined AMD's AMD Advantage program for laptops. So if it still wasn't the pinnacle, then what's the point? What's the point in that thing staying all AMD? Because at that
True.
point,
Hmm.
you might as well go back to an RTX card because we have new RTX cards coming, and it's a lot better for students, which is a lot of the G14 buyer base. So I have a feeling it will be Zen 4.
True. And then we also have I don't remember, I think we might have talked about this on episode 3, right? But there's gonna be more benefits to AMD CPU and GPU, right? Like together, I
Mm-hmm.
think. So that's gonna be interesting to see how if they do keep obviously AMD Advantage program, right? That we're gonna just see like an increase from a Zen 4 with a 7900 or not a 7900, but with the RDNA 3. I feel like you we could
Yeah.
see a lot of performance, not from like a kind of a lot of performance come from this combination, right? On top of what RDNA 3 and Zen 4 can offer, and
Mm-hmm.
then this like unclocked shader thing, how it works out. But then
Mm-hmm.
on top of that, so we like what I'm predicting here that we're gonna have the Zen 4 like just you know what I mean Zen 4 just like gen on gen
Yep.
increased performance, and then obviously RDNA 3 gen on gen performance. But then the oh my, if I don't lose my place on the thing, this cam modules for DRAM, right? On top of that,
Yeah.
you know what I
That
mean?
won't be in there. Definitely won't be
Well,
in there.
yeah, but like I'm saying for other stuff, like I said, we have a Dell laptop or
Mm-hmm.
something, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like all these stuff combined or stuff. Obviously, you're more of an expert, so if you just want to lead off on that real quick,
Yeah.
and
So,
yeah,
uh, actually, the way I found out about this was an LTT video recently. So go watch that if you haven't. But CAM is a new memory standard that Dell is trying to push, where instead of SODIMM, which is the current laptop memory standard, or soldered, which is the LPDDR stuff, it is a single flat stick that connects one closer to the CPU, but two, since it's single flat and one sided, it can go in thin and lights. So it's supposed to get rid of the excuse where laptop manufacturers are like, oh, the laptop's too thin and light, we can't put in SODIMM slots, so you have to get soldered memory. So that's kind of the whole point of it. Uh, Obviously, Dell doesn't have the best history with pushing new technologies. like with their Alienware, I think it was like A51 laptop where they promised to be upgradable and then it was not upgradable and then they changed their minds after and said it was only upgradable within the generation. That was super scummy. But this is not proprietary. They're pushing for this to be open standard by JDEC. So it's supposed to become a JDEC memory spec. If it does, this is going to be super important because I'm tired of soldered memory on laptops, especially ones that have space. And I'm super tired of soldered memory on laptops where half is soldered and half is not. Because at that point, might as well solder it all. Because the truth is, you're still going to have to pay for whatever spec you want. So who cares? Just solder it all at that point.
Yeah,
So that's why I'm super excited about JDEC. I don't know what you think about it, uh, but if it solves the thin and light problem with having soldered memory in laptops and non-upgradable, I'm cool for it.
that's true. Yeah, but I also know that obviously you said the issue with that with solder stuff as well, but then it decreases the size package, right? And so you're getting
Mm-hmm.
it's supposed to help also with the thermal aspect of a laptop.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel
A
like
little bit.
a little bit, yeah. But you
It
know, you're gonna
also
have more space.
allows
Yeah.
a more important thing is it allows the actual connections to be closer to a CPU, which is important for
Hmm.
signal timing.
Yeah,
Because if you look throughout the industry, signal timing is super important, and getting things as close to the CPU as possible is very important. That's why
that's true.
LPDDR chips have gotten
Huh.
so popular in laptops because they are so much closer to the CPU than a SODIMM thing could be. And that's why like HBM was such a big thing, right? And it still is a big thing in the data center. Like getting close to a CPU is very important, or a GPU, or whatever
Yep.
processing.
And then also I think as well, right, is that we're making it closer, but then we're also allowing other parts of the laptop to not have to take these weird paths to get to the SoC, right? The
Mm-hmm.
socket on chip. So
Yep.
that should simplify motherboards,
Trace layouts.
price layouts, and then I just feel like I like what I'm seeing like right now with laptops because we're I feel like if we compare laptops to desktops, right? Like on a motherboard aspect,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
we haven't seen motherboards on um desktops be like there's no innovation happens. You know what I mean? Maybe we have the new ATX standard, right? The 12 volt, but
Yeah,
that's
we're not gonna
barely
see that
there.
on
You know what I mean?
discrete. Yeah.
Like it's kind of the thing like if you look at like what happened with programming, right? In the very beginning programming, obviously like it was very expensive to write stuff, right? Like memory space. So programs were
Mm-hmm.
super efficient, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then obviously memory became cheaper, not that much of a concern, right? Just write whatever on the disk or whatever, like since it's so cheap memory.
Mm-hmm.
But then laptops, just because of the size constraint, right? You have to like you're pushed to innovate.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about like look at the G14, right? They're like the vapor chamber, right? We've reduced like the size or not, we've reduced temperature, whatever, blah blah blah, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
so
people are like, "Oh, what is the vapor chamber doing on the G14? Like my temperature's still pretty high." They're not high because the vapor chamber isn't doing any work. They're high because the G14, while it got a vapor chamber, that model shift, so from the 2021 models to the 2022, they also allowed the GPU to pull 20 more watts, which is why it's so much faster. It's not because it went all AMD. It's because it's pulling 125 watts instead of 105. So that's a big thing with the vapor chamber is it allows you to do stuff like that.
that's true, yeah. And then obviously we're talking about all this laptop stuff, right? Talking about memory and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so recently, you know, obviously, you were talking about LPDDR5, right? SK Hynix has started shipping LPDDR5X, right?
Yep.
I'll let you lead into that one as well.
Yeah. So we're supposed to be seeing. So this is in relation to LPDDR5, which was the predecessor, which is in actually quite a few laptops. Off the top of my head, almost all of Lenovo's work laptops, almost all of Dell's work laptops other than the the XPS 15 and 17. So pretty much in every single thin and light laptop that's not for gaming, you're gonna find this. So they're able to get it reportedly to 8.5 gigabits per second at 1.1 volts instead of last generation's 6.4 gigabits per second at 1.05 volts. So not only are we getting a pretty sizable bump in data rate, we're also getting an efficiency bump, which is pretty great. So what are your thoughts on that off the top?
Obviously, we were talking about just innovation rate laptop. Obviously, that's always nice. I feel like it's just that's always kind of like been the expected standard when it comes to memory, though. Now, right? We've gone
Mm-hmm.
from what DDR3 being 1.5, DDR4 1.2, I want to say, right? And now DDR5 is at 1 point something, right? So I don't know what the limit is on that, what we're going to
Mm-hmm.
be able to reach on voltage levels, but I don't know, it's going to be nice to see that. And then really, I don't have much to say about that.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's one of those
8
things where
point,
it's going to be
yeah,
like a nice upgrade to see, but I would still rather have discrete memory. If I can't get discrete memory, I'd rather have this. So,
that's true. But that trickles down to phones as well. You know what I mean?
yes,
Where
yes, it does.
yeah,
That could be a much bigger deal on phones.
because definitely, I mean, smaller. The phone's just a smaller package size, right? Like it's just going to be you're going to see,
Yep.
well, obviously, like 1 point. You're talking about 0.04 of a volt, but
It's quite a
then
bit on a phone.
that's quite a bit on a phone. It makes more like I don't know what the wattage difference is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Between a 1.01, 1.05, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're talking about anywhere like I feel like you'd be able to tell the difference between like I'm thinking about on a phone if it's near
Also, if you
half a
think about like
watt,
the
yeah,
battery sizes of phones, that's gonna make quite a bit
that's true,
difference.
yeah. I feel like do you think would you say that like if it was half a watt or like a watt less of like heat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you I think you'd be able to feel that on a phone. Like since phones are
Maybe
usually maybe yeah.
I'd expect for the CPU to just run hotter then. Like I expect the
Oh, that's
CPU just to
true.
boost higher.
Yeah.
But in phones, the manufacturer kind of sets tolerances out of the box. There's no like really nice like Intel thermal velocity boost or AMD Adrenalin software running on it. Like it's just this is the max wattage it can go. Uh, if it was running like a watt lower, you'd probably be able to feel it, but I think you're still just gonna notice it more in battery life and day to day stuff.
That's true. Yeah.
Also, with the
Since it's
RAM being
always on.
faster, that's just
Hmm.
nice. But yeah, that's pretty
Definitely,
much
yeah.
all we got for that one. Did you want to go into like, let's just go over to Intel for now. Yeah, you want to
Good
start with
stuff.
that?
Yeah, so we basically have I remember this was a very debated topic a long time ago. I want to say a couple years ago, maybe like 4 or 5,
Mm-hmm.
where Intel was trying to get basically um pay to unlock. You had to pay to unlock cores or some type of feature on their
Yeah.
CPUs, and it
Mm-hmm.
never came to resolution, right? But then now they've implemented it on the server side,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not talking. I when it was a rumor a while ago, you were talking about cores, right? You'd unlock the
Yeah.
cores.
Well, it wasn't a rumor; it actually happened.
That's true, yes, but it wasn't on a grand scale, right? I
No,
think
it
you kind
just
of
it
like
just happened for like one product installed.
yeah. So we've Intel maybe, I guess you can say has learned from their mistakes, right? Decided not to be so blatant about it. But then
Mm-hmm.
I guess I mean like obviously server side is a different aspect, right? Like ad server admin stuff like that, they'll pay for like certain stuff that as a consumer you wouldn't pay for you expect as a product. But
Yeah.
there's certain like features on Intel CPUs that they're now gonna you pay to unlock that, right?
Yep.
Which is I feel like it's weird. on the aspect of like, yeah, obviously, like I would be upset if I bought CPU and I realized like if I bought a new Zen 4 CPU, I had to pay for AVX 512 to be enabled, right? But then
Mm-hmm.
for servers are just different, I feel like, because you paying for that, you've now realized, not realized, but you're now paying for Intel to support that for you. I mean, like, if I know
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to use those features, you effectively pay less, you know what I mean, per
Mm-hmm.
CPU because you're just going to lose out on support of that. But what I'm afraid of what's going to happen is that if Intel does this on server, right, and it's going to get to the point where maybe we start paying for more cores or start paying for more whatever, that's going to trickle onto desktop CPUs,
Consumer.
consumer desktop, yeah. And then that's where it's just not feasible. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna want to pay for AVX support on a
Mm-hmm.
CPU.
Yeah.
Opinions.
Yeah, no, I'm not see, here's the thing. I'm not entirely convinced that they will actually lower CPU prices in this wake. So I'm not a fan of that. I will say if they keep it on like servers and stuff, I'm less angry. One, because it doesn't affect me. Two,
Good stuff,
because
yeah.
they use the CPUs to make money. So if they're paying money and it makes them more money, that might be a fair transaction in a business's
Yeah,
eyes. You know what I mean?
that's true, yeah.
My biggest issue is with if it's all hardware, like it's stuff they make on the CPU, I'm not a fan of it. I don't like you not owning your hardware. You bought the CPU, you should be able to use the whole CPU.
Yeah, that's true.
If if it's something where it's like a BIOS level thing or something that runs on like say example, this is a bad example, but it kind of works. Like Nvidia's like tensor stuff, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
not tensor, sorry. Or is it what's their AI chips called?
I think,
Whatever they are.
yeah,
It might be tensor, but
I think it is
Google's
Tensor.
tensor also. But yeah, whatever it is,
Yeah.
they if it's something that runs on that accelerates other workloads, but it's like a software or a BIOS level thing that needs to be upkept, I'm fine with it.
Mm,
But putting the hardware on the chip, and I guarantee you they're not going to charge any less for that chip than they would have without it, and then making people pay more to unlock that hardware is not good in my eyes.
yeah. No, I agree with you on that. That's definitely feel like it's just like such a like a complicated thing because obviously, I mean, I'm not a server admin, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't obviously know whether it's like a that's expected or like it's like the stuff obviously like it's a feature. I'm not it's a type of thing that if I'm not gonna use it, why am I paying for support, right? Because when you have those
Mm-hmm.
types of like server CPUs, you
Well, it's not
paying
even for
yeah,
support. You're just also not able to use it,
that's
even if you
true,
just
yeah.
want to.
But yeah, but I feel like the thing also with server CPUs, right, is that like if I buy an AMD CPU, right, like as a consumer, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not or into whatever CPU, it doesn't matter. You're not guaranteeing like a level of support you'd get as a business client. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously, if there's a problem, I RMA or whatever, but like a business
Yeah.
or like, you know what I mean? I'm expected like if there's a problem, I can call Intel and they'll be like,
Mm-hmm.
this is why this is happening. You know what I mean? And let's say
Gotcha.
I know I'm never going to use a feature, right? Like as a business, I'm like I'm not, I don't want to pay for this feature. I mean, like it's something like as a business, I feel like you'd be like, it's if it's baked into the cost.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously, but the problem is like I don't have server experience. Like you know what I mean? I'm not a server admin or whatever, business owner.
Yeah.
So I can't really be like blah 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 whatever. But I feel like as a consumer, I'm like it's shitty. But I feel like if we're playing devil's advocate here, I could see why they're doing it for that. But I'm just worried, obviously, what you said about how like
Yeah.
if it's something
If
on the
it's
chip,
about support,
yeah.
that's one thing. But also, these guys pay so much money for support
Mm-hmm.
packages to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
this just feels like nickel and diming to me, and it's one of
Mm-hmm.
those things where it's not entirely Intel's fault. It's more of investors' faults because the issue with the recent rise in everything becoming a subscription is that everything's commodified, and because of that, investors like literally are going out looking for companies that can sell a product and make money on that product like forever. They want to get as much money off that product after that product is sold as possible. That's why you're seeing things pop up like, for example, like Whoop, which is like a fitness tracker, like things where you actually cannot buy the hardware
That's
at
true.
any cost. You have to buy a subscription. So it for me it just feels like nickel and diming and pandering to investors rather than what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay.
If there's extra support, but like think about like the cost of that, like on a per CPU basis. These guys are already paying hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars to Intel for that like priority support lines.
Mm-hmm. I could see that. Okay.
So
Yeah.
how much more do you really need to pay? And also, they're locking the feature out. Like you can't even like test it out. Like even if you want to just venture, obviously like server guys are not going to venture. They're messing with millions of dollars right there. But it's on there on hardware, and they market it as them giving like the language of it is wrong in marketing, right? Because they're marketing
Okay.
it as them giving you more stuff by you paying for it instead of they took stuff away and you're paying monthly to get it back.
That
Is
okay.
the way I look at it.
Yeah. That okay.
Because they
I could
took
see
their
that.
money to
Hmm.
print that silicon, and you know they are not taking a loss on a single one of those chips. They're not
Hmm.
taking a loss on them. So you are still paying for that whole chip.
That's true.
Yeah. But like
Yeah.
moving on to like a
Hmm.
similar thing is DLVR, which funny enough pertains quite a lot to what we were just talking about. It is uh what DLVR was, it's something that's patented by Intel. It's a digital voltage regulator that sat inside of a CPU to help regulate power. And it's set parallel to like voltage regulators within like motherboards. And what it was supposed to do is help with like you know how like you get like CPU ripples and voltage where it spikes up quite a bit. It's
Yeah.
supposed to like help eliminate those to lower power consumption quite a bit. Now I wouldn't get the like when I first saw this, I was like, oh my god, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get the wrong idea out of it. I don't think it's gonna eliminate heat because it only eliminates like spikes.
Hmm.
It will marginally eliminate heat, but not really.
Yeah.
But this might fix Intel's power consumption problem. Uh, in a grand scheme of things, it could lower things quite a bit. And actually, people found out because of some BIOSes by Asus. It is on Intel 12th gen. It was just fused off throughout production because I guess I wasn't ready or something. What do you think
Yeah.
about this technology?
I definitely remember this. I'm reading about this like a long time ago. I think this was part of their like roadmap, right? That they were gonna
Mm-hmm.
have this because yeah, I pulled up the video cards uh article about it, right? Yeah, I remember this. I remember reading about this. I was like, this is actually like crazy. You're talking about 7% more performance, 21% lower voltage, right? Because if you're controlling these spikes and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like it's just uh it's better for the core, right? Obviously, you're more fine-tuned basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of sucks like they don't have it on. Like I feel like definitely would have been a really big like that could have been like a wow factor for Raptor Lake. Or not for yeah,
Yeah.
for Raptor Lake. That could have been like with the hybrid that I mean, they could have actually just been super competitive. Like obviously like we're competitive right now, right? I feel like Raptor
Mm-hmm.
Lake with whatever with AMD with Zen 4, but like this like if it would have reduced the like it could have been something, but it's not. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
could have just been what actually gave Intel the edge, like a massive edge, and they just could not be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
What comes? Do you know what comes after Raptor Lake? Is it Do we know or the
I
name
don't
of
know the
it?
name. I can check.
But
What I will say
yeah.
is I think it will actually be on 13 gen, hopefully, or at least 14 gen. Considering
Hmm.
that they were able to get it on the manufacturing die, they just fused it off.
Yeah.
Means that they found a flaw, which is good that they caught the flaw. But that also means that Like they should be able to what's it called? They should be able to get it out soon. Now, here's the thing. Considering that we haven't seen any BIOSes for it on 13 gen out, and 13 gen is out right now because that's the latest one. There is a chance that it they had to take more time developing it. So hopefully for 14 gen, which is Meteor Lake, that should be like on 4 nanometer and come out like hopefully sometime next year in 2023 or early 2024. Uh, that's where I'd expect to see it. But this is one of those things where like I'm glad it's coming to consumers, right? Because this is one of those things where I could see like servers. This is such a big thing, like because they're spending millions of dollars on electricity.
Yeah.
So this would be like a game changing server thing. So I'm glad it's coming down to consumer. Or I shouldn't say coming down because I don't know if it's on servers yet. But if it builds its way up to servers, this could be like not one of those things where like it won't catch a lot of headlines, but it could be like a big deal for Intel in the
It's
long
one of
run.
the decisions. Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
remember when I don't remember the name of the new EPIC processors for AMD, right? But I remember
Mm-hmm.
one of the selling points they had was we can do what NVIDIA, not my bad, what Intel does, right? With less racks, with less server racks.
Yeah, that was
So
huge.
you're saving money. Like you buying the product now is you're
Mm-hmm.
saving money with electricity. So it'll pay itself off in like X amount of years.
Yep.
Which was
And you can
absolutely
just
crazy.
fit so much more
Exactly.
because you can
Yeah.
have less racks. Like people don't understand like how important it is to win the server market, and things like that are what actually brings in a lot of cash flow.
That's
Because if
true.
you're able to
Hmm.
time a really good launch of a server CPU with some of your best partners, or even better, partners that you lost to another brand, rotating their servers out, that could be everything. Like
Yeah.
that could break or make a fiscal quarter. It really can.
No,
So
definitely. Yeah.
I hope they pull through with that. You gonna got any last thoughts on that one?
Nah, not really. I really hope it comes to 14. I want to see what they do about that. If it's
Mm-hmm.
possible,
Yeah.
or if it just gets completely scrapped. You know what I mean? Just like there was
Yeah.
something that they just could not
Yeah.
like
Cannot fix for
see.
now.
Yeah. And it just became
Mm-hmm.
that. Talking about AMD though, right? Let's talk about how AMD has done some price cuts on their CPUs, right?
Yeah.
And they kind of hit it as like a Black Friday week type thing, right?
No,
But
it's an
I
all new price.
exactly, but I think they were trying to like do like a type of like you have to buy now type deal, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This is not a permanent price slash.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think everyone kind of was like this is gonna be permanent. Like no one's gonna like they're not gonna rise it up because that would just also be just bad PR, you know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
for
Do you know if it's
reference,
still there?
I want to say yes. Let me see.
I can check real quick while you keep going through that.
Yeah, so real quick, we can talk about how basically the 7950X, right, went from $699 to $574, which is what,
Mm-hmm.
$125 discount?
Mm-hmm.
Insane, right? That makes it competitive at more price wise. But then the
Mm-hmm.
problem is obviously DDR5 motherboards still are not down in price.
The
Because
motherboard is a big deal.
that's the thing. Like motherboards really like they just have to go down in price before we're gonna
Yeah.
get like it just becomes like not like that much of a debated topic about upgrading
Mm-hmm.
to the Zen
Yeah.
to AM5 platform because that's just been the
If I
contention
may
point.
interject here,
Mm-hmm.
we use the same Twitter, like the brand Twitter.
Yeah.
Go follow that, by the way. It will be in the description. Did you see the thing that popped up on our timeline of
Was it
like
today?
AMD had a
Oh,
no, I think it was yesterday. I'm not sure. It was probably yesterday. It was like a slide, and then it said motherboard starting $140, and everyone was just like, "Where?
wait,
Like, where are the $140
I saw that. I saw
motherboards?"
the PC part picker. There was like, it's not here. Like,
Yeah, it's like where are they? Like this is a complete lie. But yeah, no, keep going.
that's
But yeah, follow
definitely
that in the description.
follow. Yep, follow the Twitter. We definitely need more people on it. Um, did you check the price? Do you know? Can we confirm it or
Oh
no?
yeah, yeah, I was waiting for you to finish. So yeah, um, it is actually sticking at the 249 or like the lower prices everywhere, except, and this is the bad part. One, Best Buy, which doesn't really matter. Two, AMD's own site. They went back up on AMD's own site.
Mm,
But Micro Center, Amazon, Newegg, Ant Online are still all running the promotion.
okay, that's some good stuff. That's what I like to hear.
So it looks like it wasn't a permanent price drop, but that's like really disappointing.
But if it, I feel like if it's on all the other ones, it doesn't really matter that much. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we,
Well, it's not
yeah.
fixed on all of them. Like if I go to the 7, right, the 7700X,
Mm-hmm.
Amazon still has the correct price of like 549,
Yeah.
but Micro Center is at 573. So they did not do like a fixed MSRP change, unfortunately.
Damn. Okay, that sucks. But I feel like, I mean, we're gonna see price cuts anyways. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
maybe the next month or something. Also, just motherboards need to go down in price.
We should also be seeing Q1 uh 3D V-Cache variants of these.
Oh, yeah,
And then
definitely.
KS series Rocket Lake variants. So hopefully that will price cut these current CPUs.
No, definitely. I feel like, once we see the 3D variants, right, is
Mm-hmm.
when we're gonna have like a massive, I like change in like 5800X 3D. Unless the 5800X 3D gets another price slash, right, where it becomes like the really the budget CPU at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But AMD did say that they were gonna that AM4 wasn't dead yet, right?
They did. They never confirmed that it wasn't dead, but
Yeah.
they said they basically alluded saying like I have a feeling that this is not the end of AM4,
Mm-hmm.
but also they didn't really say that any better CPUs are going to come out for it. I
That's
think they're
yeah.
just going to keep on iterating what's there. Kind of what they did with was it while Ryzen was still growing? I forgot the name of it. The Athlon
Oh,
or
like you're talking
like they
about
kept on
the
releasing like Athlons or well Zen like up until like Ryzen 7 or 2000 they were still releasing Athlons on the sly.
that's yeah, I know what you're talking about, yeah. But I feel
Yeah,
like
or AM3 plus stuff.
mm-hmm, yeah. Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because that was the funkiest thing because Athlon was like considered like a weird like Zen, not Zen thing. Like it was just not.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting, but I feel like really what they could do was if they like we could just see steppings on Zen. Was that 5800 Zen 3, right? Zen 3 Plus? Yeah. No, is
Mm.
1500 Zen 3 Plus or
Uh yeah. No. It's Zen 3. Zen 3 plus is only on
laptops?
laptops.
Yeah, so
That's
I
why
feel like
also
yeah,
AMD's naming keeps on getting messed up.
yeah. I feel like we could just definitely just see stepping. So I remember they did that for was it for the 36 oh, was it the 3000 series where you just didn't
Yeah,
have a
where they
name
had a
change? Yeah,
3600 XT.
that's true. They had the XT, but then we also had because the thing with
I
the
think we also
XT
talked about that in one of the archive
or the one the
podcasts.
archive podcast,
Because I
but then we
remember
also
we talked about how
the
they
voltage
fixed
leak.
like the voltage leak. Yep.
Yeah. I there was also another CPU and what happened was they had they released a stepping of it, right? But
Mm-hmm.
kind of like it was the same product name, right? Like we didn't have an XT version. So
Mm-hmm.
what happened was you just had like increased performance, like the boost was higher, some shit like that. And so
Mm.
you would just have that's really the only thing, unless they're gonna start just coming out with new CPUs, right? I mean, you're just gonna have to bin what you have now. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it would definitely distract from Zen 4 if we were re-release, like if we released bin versions of Zen three processors. Unless we start doing golden samples, honestly, I feel like that could be a move.
Maybe. Uh, but you know, yeah, the issue is, I think they should just release more 3D cache on AM4. Like, imagine a 5950X with 3D cache.
That's true, yeah. But I feel like at that point, then I
You should
there's
just go up.
yeah,
But like
but
the motherboards and RAM are still so much cheaper on that
no,
platform.
that's
That's the
true, yeah.
issue. The biggest issue is not that AM4 is bad or AM5 is bad. It's just so expensive of a switch when like they're perfectly fine. Like unless if you have a 4090, you're really not gonna notice it.
That's true, yeah. But I think if you're gonna put that much memory, but the problem is like Zen 4 is more capable of um cache, like 3D cache, than Zen 3 was, right? Because if you
Yeah,
look
because
at
there's a
like
Gen 2 of 3D
there's a
cache,
Gen
but
2,
can they
yeah.
apply that on old products? Because they're kind of separate
But the problem
technologies
is the
from what I
old products,
understand.
yeah, obviously, but the old products have like the connections, I think, for the 3D cache, right? But they just weren't
Mm-hmm.
able to implement it. So then you just be but I feel like something with a 5900X that definitely is pulling more heat than a 5800, right? And I
For
know
sure.
the cache is
It's
sensitive.
actually not as hot as most people think, though. The 5950X was actually super efficient.
Mhm.
It actually pulled less wattage, funny enough, than the 5900X most of the time,
Because
or
of
a
the,
lot of
yeah,
times, because they just put really nice chiplets in the
that's true.
5950X.
But when you compare it to the 5800, do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Well, could you imagine a 5600X 3D? That would be a gaming king.
that
If they
would be
got that
okay,
thing at
yeah.
like two, like what would it have to be for you to buy it, considering that the 5800X 3D can be bought if you're not needing it like at this second and you watch for drops at 329 pretty easily.
Yeah.
What would it take to buy a 5600X 3D for you? What
But
price?
oh no, gosh. Dude, I don't think I would do that though. Because you have to remember I also have a 5600.
Well, ignore that obviously.
Yeah.
Like say you're choosing between a 5800X 3D, you're coming from nothing. New
Okay, yeah.
PC. What is the price where you're like, you know what, this is so much lower than the 5800X 3D. I'll give up the two extra cores.
Okay, so what's 5800X 3D at right now?
329. 329 most of the
329.
time.
And then, do you know reference 5600?
I I think like 149 a lot of the time.
300? What? That was when it came out. Oh, that's a good question. I don't even know. If it's 329 to 5800, right? I
Mhm.
feel like it's, I want to say 200. Like,
200, $120 less
I feel
to
like,
forego two cores?
well, it's just like
I was going to say like 250.
250.
200 would be too close to what the 5600X is right now, I feel like.
That's true. The problem is I don't know how cache, the 3D cache
We
scales.
can go buy a 5600X right now for 200.
That's true. That's true.
I feel like 250 is what my call would be.
250. I would go 230 then, yeah.
230? Man, you're being cheap.
It's just, it's just the problem is like I don't know how it scales on how to
Oh, I feel like it scales fine.
I do you think it'll scale fine?
Cuz like the A core, like A cores doesn't do anything more for gaming. It's just that they put higher quality silicon in A core
That's
CPUs most
true,
of the
yeah.
time. Like
But I feel
the
mhm.
difference between the 5800X and the 5800X 3D was like massive. Like it's all because of 3D cache.
Yeah.
So I'd expect similar gains to the 6 core.
Or do you think the Cisco would just perform like the jump between non 3D and 3D would be bigger on the six since you're just actually putting more cache per core? Does that make sense?
Oh, if you put like, because the 6
If we
core
put the same
has less
amount.
cache to begin with, if you put the
Yeah.
same amount,
But also,
maybe that's actually a good point because
yeah,
like ratio wise, you are increasing the cache by a better ratio. That's a good point.
that would be interesting.
Like imagine if that thing got as fast as like a 50 or a 6900 or like a six or I mean sorry, I was thinking on laptop like a 7700X or a 7900X.
Yeah. No, that would,
But
geez,
like
that
it's
would,
6
yeah.
cores, which is what most people want. It's just extremely fast
No, I feel like,
on
yeah,
a
definitely
cheap
for
platform.
productivity, it won't be that good. But then we're talking about gaming and
No, it
stuff,
won't be at all.
you'll see like insane jumps for because I don't know how many games. Obviously, there's some games that are going to utilize the full 8 cores, right? But I feel like 6 cores is the new 4 cores. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah. I
so
don't like
yeah.
can you like do you know at all uh why it's so hard or why developers choose not to code for a lot of cores cuz you do a lot more
Oh, that's
developing than I
true.
do.
Yeah, we're just doing. It's the hardest. Like multi-core stuff is extremely hard to do. Like
Is it
we're
cuz like
just
timings and whatnot?
yeah, like timing, and you also have to like worry about like concurrency, right? So like if I'm accessing something on one string, I have
Mhm.
to realize like I have to make sure another string isn't modifying that data that like I'm checking out right now. And so the
Mm.
problem is like it's very easy just not worry about threads, right? And just have
Mhm.
everything on one thread because that's memory safe. Like you can't because
Yeah.
everything on one thread, there's only one thing accessing it,
Yeah.
and
It's
that's
probably
what
just
happens.
like a time saver too cuz you don't have to allocate resources.
Uh-huh.
But we like this is going to be a funny example, but like Roller Coaster Tycoon, the entire thing is written in assembly.
And assembly, yes.
That's why it runs so well on like potato PCs. Like that's the thing. Like when you code something really well, the performance difference is crazy, but like it'd be almost impossible to achieve that type of thing with like modern games on like a timetable that's not decades.
For
So,
sure. No, yeah. And then honestly, like right now, just everything is so abstract because honestly, no game you cannot code it. You're not making game assembly like in this modern
well,
day, right?
obviously, yeah, no.
I don't even know how
But
you
like
make.
even if you're
Yeah.
coding for like multi-core, like let's say you split it up really well. How many like things in a game that are not too similar for each other are there? Like is an
No,
A
yeah.
core really necessary?
There's a lot of stuff that just can't be run on multiple cores. Like
Mhm.
they're just relying on other stuff. So then you're just having these cores that basically, or these like threads you've made that just wait a bunch
Mhm.
for no reason.
Especially cuz you have to factor in the fact that things are triplet now. So
That's
they're
true.
even
Yeah.
farther away from each other. Like you're like, "Oh, it's not that far," but like signal timing is so important at that scale. So,
No, yeah.
yeah,
That's
it's
that.
it's interesting to see what they go with that.
'Cause I think what's like the big one? Is it lighting? There's like one big one that's always like can become its own thread. I always forget this. I just know that like
I have no clue honestly.
it's it's always just that's a developer thing. That's a game developer thing. I feel like.
I know a lot of games use like a rolled thread, so it will just like render like uh almost everything on one thread.
Yeah,
Like I know
exactly.
Minecraft is notorious for using a rolled thread. Even the server will use a rolled thread.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's where like sometimes like if you look at stuff like Iris or I don't want to say Optifine, 'cause I don't know if it does, right? But like
Mhm.
or if you just look at stuff like Paper MC, where like
Mhm.
you get performance from making multiple threads. Like maybe your chunk thread is different from your mob thread, right? And then that also just leads to issues. Like you just have to make sure that you're just doing it properly. That's the reason why also Minecraft is on Java, which is not the best
Mhm. Yeah.
language for that, but it is what it is. Like
I'm telling you, Minecraft Kotlin edition has to happen.
I don't think they're not ever going
I'm
to change
just
it to
kidding.
Kotlin. That'd be
Yeah, no,
hilarious
they're
though.
they're too worried about the Windows version now. Unfortunately,
That's true. Yeah. I like Kotlin though. Kotlin's like a nice language because it's like
I have not looked at it too much. My roommate
it
knows it pretty well though.
it's similar to Java, I feel like syntax
Yeah,
wise,
yeah, it is. It's extremely similar.
but it's just like
It's just
it's
modern.
Yeah, there's the boilerplate, right? Obviously, like
Yep.
there's way less boilerplate. I hate getter setter methods, right? When we're talking about programming
Mm-hmm.
languages, I think they're the dumbest thing. Like just simply just respect like the interface, or I mean, like people are
Yeah.
gonna like read shit or read stuff they're not supposed to. So like
Mm-hmm.
just there's no point with getter setters. It also just adds a bunch of just code you don't need.
So many more. Yeah, so many more lines.
Yeah, there's a reason why it's
Uh, but it's
Android's.
important for scope. But
No, for sure. Yeah.
what's it called? Yeah, Android's manifest is on Kotlin now.
No, yeah, exactly. That's
They actually prefer Kotlin. But yeah, pivoting from we were talking about like CPU cores and stuff. The i7 uh on mobile is going to change quite a bit. So, if you didn't know, the on Intel's mobile line, they switch it into categories. So they have the U series, which is their super low end, thin and light ones. Their P series, which is like ideally what majority of the laptops would be on, right? And then the H series, and the H series like specifically for like super high end laptops like the XPS or gaming laptops. And the P series, which is the one that most people should want, is the i7 37P has been leaked, and apparently it's going to come with two more cores, and
stuff.
not little cores. It's going to have two more performance cores. So, what do you think about that?
Uh, pretty good. Um, i7. I don't remember. What are we at? 24 cores? Or am I wrong? When you're talking about also mini.
On laptop? Oh,
Yeah,
on
what?
laptop before they were on a 12 core, so it was 6 6,
6 6. Now we're on 8
and
6,
now it's a
right?
14 core where it's 8 6.
8 6. We're getting four more threads, right?
Or sorry, no, I had it the wrong way around. It
Oh,
was actually a 4 core before, so it was 4 8, and now it's 6 8.
6 8 performance. Wait, what do you mean
So now
6
they have
8?
6 performance cores
Oh,
and eight
okay.
E cores now.
That's
What the
12
newest ones
20.
reportedly.
That's 20, right? Yeah.
20 threads, yeah.
That sounds fine. I don't see anything wrong with that. Like, I feel like performance, efficiency cores like have a place for, I feel like they're also just like perfect for laptops. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
it kind of like, there's a lot of stuff that like, maybe I'm just chilling here. You know what I mean? I don't need
Hmm.
performance cores like running all the time.
Yeah.
Um, power, like, do you know how the power package is on that or no?
It's gonna be suggested to be a 25 watt probably.
That I don't like. I, there's like a power. I don't like the power creep on like laptop models right now because
Hmm.
we went from what 15 and now we're kind of like at this 15 to like 17 range and like 17 25, right?
Well, that is their highest end 7 though. But
That's
yeah,
true, yeah. But I mean,
my
yeah,
my big thing with it, right, is E cores at the moment actually do nothing. Like they genuinely are doing absolutely nothing for their efficiency. AMD is still completely wiping the floor with them on efficiency on
that's
laptops
true. Yeah,
and desktops. But like desktops is not as bad because if you're inefficient, yeah, you do waste electricity. But if you have the correct cooling, you're really not going to notice it. But if you're inefficient on a laptop, that's everything. Like that's your battery life, that's your heat, that's your throttling, that's your boost, that's how much your other components can boost. It's literally everything. And
exactly.
e-cores,
Mhm.
like on laptops, do absolutely nothing at the moment.
But that's
Like I don't
also,
I don't know if it's just like they're not like scheduled correctly,
yeah, I was about to say
or I
that.
don't know if it's just they're not like there's not a big enough difference in efficiency for them to matter, because if AMD is more efficient than their E cores and just as fast as their P cores, then it's kind of embarrassing.
No, for sure. But I feel like it's definitely like a scheduling issue because you also just have to rethink the way you do
Mm-hmm.
uh everything with e-cores. Like it's just
Yeah.
like when do you use them, when do you not use them? You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm. And when we say scheduling for the listeners,
hmm
we mean like Windows Scheduler, which is what picks, like, hey, this task goes on this core, blah blah blah. It's basically allocating resources.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like it was kind of like I understand where they came from because like when you're talking about like mobile stuff or like ARM, like that's where you see that shine a lot. But I feel like the way not Windows, the way x86 was like built up, it's hard just to say we're going to do big little now. Like
Yeah.
it's not as just cut as what mobile or ARM was.
Hmm.
But I'm glad they're adding more performance cores because I feel like really they're not getting the most out of their efficiency cores. Like adding
Yeah,
more
I
wouldn't have done
agree.
anything.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
good for them
You know,
on
it's
that.
it's the
Yeah.
same story with Intel every year. They're extremely fast. They're actually
Mhm.
just as fast as AMD nowadays again. They're just way too hot.
Yeah.
They're just still so hot. And that like wattage, that heat, that battery life, that needs to be fixed, especially on laptops. Like I cannot go out of my way to recommend an Intel laptop at the same price as an AMD laptop if all things are equivalent in any circumstance, pretty much.
Mhm.
Unless if you're using like After Effects or Photoshop,
No,
because
I
those
agree.
have like iGPU acceleration for Intel, but like in 99% of cases, there's no point.
Completely agree. Like most of the time, like most people are just like they're gonna see the longer battery life on
Mm-hmm.
AMD, and that's gonna be the end of it for them. You know what I mean? Like for them, it's about the battery life, and they're gonna say the same like performance
Mm-hmm.
in their day-to-day life using
Yeah.
Intel versus AMD.
That's
So
how it is when I give people recommendations on what to buy, because even though like a lot of laptops don't get specced out as well as AMD because the relationships Intel has built over time, every year it gets closer and closer, like the RAM configurations and whatnot, and every
yeah,
year it gets closer, Intel's going to lose its lead. So that's a big thing. Uh, I actually have written in here specifically. I want to talk about the XPS 13 Plus because that was kind of the flagship of last year's P series in my mind. So the
okay,
12, 60 and 80p, and because it was such a small package, like you can imagine like a thin and light 13-inch, right?
yeah.
Using like a 25-watt chip, and they had to completely redesign the way it thermally did things, but it was not as good as people hoped. Like it was supposed to be like the most beautiful laptop, extremely sleek, innovative power design or thermal design, but it had a lot of like crashing issues. It had a lot of thermal throttling issues, and it even got RMA'd or not RMA'd, recalled because the heat was so bad and they didn't put good enough glue on the screen that the screen was peeling off. So I'm wondering if it's going to be roughly the same wattage theoretically, and Dell is able to fix their stuff on the 13 Plus, this could be an absolute killer laptop. If you get a laptop that small with this type of performance, like have you seen a 13 Plus in real life?
I feel like maybe like
Dude, it's
yeah.
incredibly small, and it's the most beautifully designed thing I've
No,
ever seen.
yeah, it definitely is a nice looking uh laptop.
So
I
you
feel
see
like
how it's like
yeah.
has like a touchpad type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't do it like the gimmicky way,
Oh, the
like Apple
whole
did with the
bottom's a
MacBooks.
touchpad or oh, the top
Well,
part.
no,
My
no,
bad,
no,
my
no,
bad.
the
Yeah, yeah,
top
yeah.
part, yeah. So they didn't do a gimmicky way like they do with MacBooks, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's capacitive, but it's still like a normal function row. It's not a screen.
Yeah.
But the reason they did that is they don't need keys under there. They just need like a small layer to
The
register touches.
yeah.
So the entire back is open for ventilation.
Okay.
Like it is so
Okay.
cool.
No, yeah. Well, I feel like definitely
So
also my bad, yeah.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say also, I mean, they have their cam technology, that cam dram technology. So if they do
That's not going to
use
be in
that,
this guy. It's too small.
they're lacking. They're lacking on it. What can I say?
Yeah. No, if they went with the U series, maybe,
Yeah.
but like they're gonna need a huge heat sink to cool like a 25-watt chip in that size, so they're
Hmm.
definitely not gonna put it in here. I think it's right now the cam stuff, right? so far is only in some of Dell's newest precision laptops, which are like their business focused alternatives to the XPS.
Okay, yeah.
So that's where it's found first right now. And the thing is, it only came out like a month ago, so we still have a long time before this gets like it will speed up a lot if they actually get JDEC to certify the memory and take it over.
Uh-huh.
Because JDEC is like a memory certified, like they're official. It's not like
They make
proprietary
it,
at that
yeah.
point.
Hmm.
So if they get JDEC to deal with it, then we'll see quite a leap in uh hopefully adoption of CAM. But yeah,
Definitely a
uh,
nice looking laptop though, overall. That's
yeah, dude, I'm hoping they can figure out all the issues. Like
yeah.
that laptop is so cool, and also if people figured out how to make iGPUs good, that plus an iGPU would be the most killer rig.
That that would be
Because
nice.
CPUs have gone so fast on laptops, dude. So like that plus a really good iGPU enclosure, like you got a really nice solid laptop, beautiful ergonomics, and it doesn't look gamery, super fast. You get home and you just plug it into an iGPU dock and you're gaming. That'd be literally the dream.
No,
But
definitely, yeah.
yeah, speaking of GPUs, we started getting more leaks of Ada Lovelace, which is a current NVIDIA generation of like what seems to be a 3070 Ti, and the die is so small, dude. So it's 25% smaller than last generation's. So Ampere's die. So the 80 104. So if you didn't know, GPU dies count down. So 102, 103, 104.
Hmm.
80 104 is 25% smaller than GA 104. So do
Gosh,
you have any
yeah.
like initial impressions before I give any thoughts on that?
Definitely crazy how they shrunk it down. 'Cause I'm pretty sure what's opposite of what AMD did, right? AMD basically, I mean, the thing got bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, do we know? I don't. Do you know any performance stuff about 470 Ti
Well,
or
here's the
not?
thing: they shrunk it down,
Hmm.
and it's the CUDA cores are still higher, but they didn't jump as much as people thought they would. So, um, it's interesting. Like this is my thing, right? When I see stuff like this makes me more interested about not this generation, but like 4 years down the line when like Blackwell versus RDNA like 5 or 4 is, right?
Yeah,
Because imagine if they go back to having like a big die and having an absolute load of CUDA cores in there.
that's true. Because if they can do, yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I understand where you're
Yeah,
coming from.
but yeah, like we can see here Ampere or sorry Ada Lovelace, which is the current generation, is definitely something they engineered with the wrong assumption that the mining boom plus GPU shortage stuff would make GPU prices stay high. Because if you look at the technology of it, it's a super small die. It's on TSMC's cutting edge node. It's using really fast memory. It's using like really small PCBs and really intricate layouts, and it runs at extremely high clock speeds. Like it really looks like they push this thing to the absolute limit. And sorry. Oh yeah. So not only do they push it to the absolute limit, they also did it with the wattage, right? Because we're seeing leaks right now that some people can get 4090s to about half the TDP
Yeah,
and only lose 8% performance. So what do you think about Nvidia pushing things so far this generation and getting crazy performance out of it, but they made a lot of sacrifice and it feels like they pulled out the entire deck of cards this time.
I feel like obviously, like I understand, like they like RDNA 3 is kind of like the menace here, but like it's the those are the thing AMD's had to like being somewhat relatively close to what NVIDIA put out. So I understand like having all the cards out, but this is definitely either like I know you said you can since it's so small, right? What can happen is that if we upscale in the future, right, we're packing.
Mhm.
It's getting packed, right, with CUDA cores and stuff.
Yeah.
But when you go all out like this on a model, you're
You can
it,
tell
it
they were worried.
yeah, but then it's also there's nothing you can't go. You have nothing hidden up your
Mhm.
sleeve for the next one. Like they push
Exactly.
everything out on this one. It's like they're
Mhm.
literally suffering from success. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I feel like it's gonna be the same thing where like w- I don't know how like good these cards. Like we know the performance and stuff, but like if we're gonna be like how the 1080 Ti was like the card because like their
Yeah.
next
There's
generation
definitely no
series.
1080 Ti this
Yeah,
generation.
but obviously like when we're talking about like the next generation, right? The ten like they just
Mhm.
cannot like come out with a
Compete with the
card that was
1080 Ti.
so compelling. Yeah. And
Mhm.
obviously, like, this is not 1080 Ti type style, but like, you understand the same
Mhm.
type of like, we went all out, and our next
Mhm.
generation is not going to be like that. You know what I mean? Like, and then,
I yeah, no, go ahead.
no, no, yeah, no, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I honestly look at the other way. I think they went all out so they won't be ready for like a mid-cycle refresh like TIs
Okay.
or supers. They will like CUDA core wise, right? But there will be like no new technologies. So they left so much room like CUDA core wise because they haven't filled up much of the die at all. Like we've seen that in so many leaks. Like these things are not full. Uh so we'll get that. But when Blackwell versus RDNA 3 or 4 comes around, the reason I think that could be a real issue is um one, I think they're going to go back to more efficient cards because they've
Yeah.
seen like kind of one uproar and two they don't need to do it. Three, they get a lot more CUDA cores and a lot bigger die. The thing I'm worried about, right, is with going back to a massive die while packing all those CUDA cores, are we going to have an issue with the yields?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel like this could be sorry, this could definitely be like a big thing because we're also when we're shrinking process nodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're gonna the I don't know if we're gonna keep on getting good yields or not, right? I mean, there's a reason why AMD did chiplet. So,
Yeah, so Blackwell was the next one, right? Blackwell
hmm
was like on the roadmap was supposed to be chiplet, but we're getting a lot of reports right now that they actually are not able to figure out and they will not be able to get chiplet out for Blackwell at the moment.
yeah, so I mean, if yields are bad, that's also gonna be bad because what's gonna happen is that we're gonna have once again high voltage expensive cards, right? 'Cause you just have to
Mm-hmm.
compensate for low yield, and
Mm-hmm.
then not gonna be good for Nvidia. And then I guarantee you, with the way like if AMD or they're not gonna go super competitive on pricing either, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a lot of accumulation of things can happen to the point where like let's see if Arc survives, right? Because the thing if Arc doesn't survive, builds don't go good, right? Then
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna have another toasty card once again. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
not pay the heating bill for another winter. But yeah, I really hope yields actually stay up.
Mm-hmm.
I think TMC is working on 1 nanometer, I want to say. They've started investing
Are
into
they
it, so
actually? Dude,
yeah.
I every time I see it I'm like this time it will surely not work out and then it works out.
No,
It's been like
it's
the same story for years since like
exactly.
literally since like what, like 6 or 5 nanometer everyone's like this one will have issues and then it just does not have issues. But
Definitely.
one thing I'm really curious of is like how we're saying like about like things they can pull out of their sleeve. In the GPUs, that isn't really a big thing, but we've been seeing it with like AMD versus Intel. Like Intel will be like the only thing we can pull out is more wattage in a KS series, so better bend, right?
Yeah.
And then AMD will just pull out like 3D cache and it's a wrap. Like my question is like, will AMD be able to find their thing like that on GPUs? Because the issue is GPUs are not like CPUs. Because GPUs are heavily you got to worry about drivers a lot more, right?
Yeah.
Which AMD has fixed quite a bit a lot of people are saying. Historically, they're pretty bad, but like they're pretty good right now.
Definitely.
Uh, and also like support from other vendors. They have little to no support in the industry over CUDA, and they're not good at all with features compared to NVIDIA.
Yeah. But
So, what is there going to be like? What is there going to be like their 3D V cache thing?
I feel like okay, for GPUs, I don't think they need a 3D V cache. I think what they
Pricing will be their 3D V cache.
pricing plus software. I feel like so what's it called? ROCM, right? I think that's the equivalent of CUDA for AMD,
Mm-hmm.
right? Graphic
Yeah.
processing unit, whatever. Yeah. HIP, yeah, OpenCL. So that's basically your equivalent of CUDA stuff. And so if you can get like encoding, decoding, these like their CUDA alternative, right? To be close to what NVIDIA has, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then they don't need their 3D V cache. Like they don't need the wow. They'll have
Yeah.
time to like actually find their 3D V cache because I'm pretty sure like what they've already done 3D V cache. Like if we're talking about like a literal sense here, right? We've already smacked Infinity Cache on something. Like what are they gonna? I mean, I guess we can just smack more
Yeah.
Infinity Cache. Like that's
What I
probably.
want to really see, right,
Hmm.
with the I don't know if it will translate as well to GPUs, but with like the 5800 X3D showing how important it is these days with how fast and how many like processes every second a processing unit does, how
Yeah.
important it is to have data super close to your CPU. Because cache, in that sense, like with 3DV cache, is just a buffer between the CPU and RAM, essentially, in the most layman's term, right?
Yeah.
But you're able to keep more right by the CPU. It's
Exactly.
like having someone like to talk to you next to you versus having to call them
Hmm.
for information. I think it's time with AMD being like super efficient right now and being on the up and up. If they win this generation, I think it's time for the return to HBM.
That would be big.
I That's like a huge hot take probably because HBM was such an utter failure for them on their first try.
Definitely,
But like
yeah. But
imagine if they got the heat down and they put a lot of HBM on the die, bro. It would be fantastic.
what are we? No, keep on going. Sorry,
No, you're good.
I was about to
No, I
say.
had nothing to say.
Okay, I was. I was about to say. Do you know we are on HBM 2E, correct? Or is it? Are
Yep.
we three?
Which
I
is
think we're starting with
I
three.
haven't seen any three, but
I
I
think it's
wouldn't be
kind of
surprised if it's
in the
coming out
works.
soon.
But I feel like definitely like what you said if they're on top, right? But I feel like they have to wait for HBM 3. Like they need like the price to go down. First of all, 'cause that was a problem. The price was one of the biggest problems they had, right? And if the price
Yeah.
does that, right? Then what happens is they fix your bandwidth issue, right? Because there's a massive bandwidth issue on AMD cards. So we
Mm-hmm.
fix this bandwidth issue we have, and then well, I feel like if we fix bandwidth, Infinity Cache becomes less relevant. So then
Yeah.
do we scrap Infinity Cache? Do we add more?
No.
Infinity
Add
Cache
more. Always add more.
3.0? You know what I mean? But the thing is probably also you
Yeah.
can't adding too much cache slows your cache. So you're
Mm.
making the memory faster, but you're slowing down your cache. And so
Mm-hmm.
what comes to the point where like it's actually hindering the cache. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
this, I mean, definitely there's engineers and shit with degrees over there, so they can figure that out. But like
Yeah.
it's
Well, here's the thing
yeah.
with like HBM, right? It
Hmm.
would also, if you do it right, it's supposed to have less power consumption.
Hmm.
You get obviously much much faster communication than GDR memory. But if they return to HBM, that would be a signal for like because HBM is so much better for like machine learning, AI, video editing, all that, right?
Yeah.
That would be their signal of like, hey, we're taking GPU seriously and we're not going to lose this fight this time.
Yeah.
start programming, developers start programming for us, because we're tired of like Nvidia being the default if you have any actual work to do. Like, because not only would it make it so, since it's on like raw power at the moment, because nobody's coding for AMD, right? So it's just raw compute power and translation layers. HBM would, one, make them a lot better at that, I'd assume,
Yeah.
and two, it would signal that it's time for people to start taking them seriously in all aspects. So
No,
I think a return to HBM could be
that's
huge.
true.
Plus, since it's on die, they could make the GPUs even smaller. Like, it'd be great.
Definitely. But I feel like if they also do HBM, that would mean we don't see like a multi-chip GPU, like a like two
Wait,
die
what?
GPU. No,
Oh,
no, no.
two
Like,
die.
yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's the right word, but
I
like,
don't think we're gonna see it either way.
I mean, we had it on the Mac. Like, it was like a thing they did
Yeah,
for
but that's
Mac.
way different.
That's true.
Because the thing is, Mac doesn't have to worry at all about gaming. That's the difference.
It was just for performance, yeah,
Like, if like,
or
think about
for
it this way: if
productivity.
if gaming wasn't a thing, right, everything would be on ARM. It's just objectively better at this point for most things if developers code for it.
Okay, yeah.
But you need that like raw single end speed that x86 offers for gaming. So I don't see like that being like the best comparison for
Okay.
the two die. Uh, but if you're talking about like the Mac Pros with like the Duo
Yeah,
GPUs,
that's
even then, like, again, you still don't have to worry about gaming, because like if that was a thing, like Nvidia would have definitely messed around with it if it was like helpful for gaming. Uh, but like they even killed SLI. Like, I just don't think devs want to worry about that. And AMD is right now trying to position themselves to gamers. Like, we're talking about the theoretical right now, like them returning, or not returning, but trying to enter like the hardcore like work market. Uh, but right now they're focused on gamers, so I don't think they could ever do something like that.
okay. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Also, I
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's also I just like want to see the return of SLI or Crossfire. Like that was just such like
Yeah,
I mean the Linus Tech Tips like four what was it? I forget what GPUs 1080s or what were they?
dude, he's
Like
had like
the
four Titans in a
four
machine,
Titans. Like that was
or
just
like, yeah.
insane. And it just sucks we're never gonna see that anymore. 'Cause I'm pretty sure like there's
There
basically
was one machine where he had four cards in it. Two of them were in S line, two of them were in Crossfire. Like, dude, that was the coolest stuff when we were kids. It was like, I want all my PCIe slots filled.
exactly,
But
but
now it's just like
yeah.
not a thing.
What was the SLI that what was the successor that kind of like wasn't really
Oh, so it was SLI protocol over NVLink. So
that
NVLink was
was
the
yeah.
connector, and it's still used right now on like server and like Quadro cards and whatnot to pool memory. So it's like USB C versus Thunderbolt, right? Like, one's a protocol, one's a connector.
Hmm.
So it still ran SLI over it. They didn't actually change the protocol much, from what I understand. It's just a difference in physical connector, which I was so mad about. Like, dude, when that came out, right? I was like, NVLink, and then I looked at how like they pool GPU for like machine learning and AI stuff when using NVLink, right?
Yeah.
I was like, that's stupid. Like, why can't we get more performance out of it? But again, it's like even like signal timing. Like, it's literally about that.
No, yeah, I remember I think also with like how gaming was, right? Like it was you were alternating between the GPUs. Like you do
One
draw,
frame one.
yeah, one draw, the two draw, one draw, two draw, which was like
Mhm.
efficiency wise, you think like you get near double. Right? Obviously, you're not gonna get fully double, but I think well, you only got like a 33% increase
At
in
best.
performance at best.
Yeah.
So like it's just like
And the
the
thing is, we
uh,
couldn't even use it for like NVLink stuff, right? Because like,
mhm.
uh, the main thing with NVLink was the ability to fully pull memory, but like we don't need that much memory for gaming. So it's one of those things where it's like the signal timing once again bites us in the
That's
ass.
true. Yeah, I feel like definitely like maybe not PCIe 5, but I feel like in the future it could be somewhat of a possibility, like where you're getting maybe 50, 60% gains, not the
That would
33.
be the coolest future, dude.
That
If
would.
we're like 25 and it's like we can finally do what we want to do since we were
That's true.
kids.
Yeah. Well, the way everything's going, I mean, latency's going down, you know what I mean? Like bandwidth is increasing.
Hmm.
Like I could
But they
just see it
also,
happening.
a big thing was they couldn't convince devs to like actually take their time to make it work. Like that's a big theme like throughout like a lot of stuff we talk about
Hmm.
is the world, and this is probably a good thing because devs lives probably sucked back in the day, but like things have to be easy for devs to do, and utilizing two GPUs on something like a game is not easy.
No, yeah,
Because that was the difference between games that were really good in SLI and games that were really not good in SLI, is really how much the dev cared. That's why there was such a
definitely, yeah.
big difference. And some games are worse than SLI because you'd get like 10 more frames, but you get the worst frame
That's
timing
true.
ever.
Yeah, but definitely, like at that point, also that has to become a driver feature. You know what I mean? That has to be something that's supported, not at the game level,
Yeah,
but
if
at
they
the
could
driver
find a way
level.
like yeah, if they could find a way like the way they do like RTX or something, like a just like make it a actual feature through drivers where devs can implement it easily.
Exactly, yeah. Or you're
That
talking
would
about
be
like
so
maybe like
cool.
Unreal Engine or something, right? Yeah.
Hmm.
Because
Or they just find a way, super fast way to interconnect them so signal timing becomes less of an issue.
yeah, that's true, yeah. But I mean, also I think what was also the other issue? I think when you're talking about it, right? When you had the two GPUs, oh, that's what it was also. Remember, it was slave master.
Yeah.
So like it wasn't mesh because they changed to mesh eventually, but then it kind of just like was too late at that point, right? And it wasn't
Hmm.
that popular with technology.
Yeah. Like one GPU would not get utilized nearly as much.
Yeah, but
But the thing is,
definitely,
GPUs are
yeah.
so fast and big now, it'd be hard to go back to that. Like back then, two GPUs were the size of a single GPU today. Like
No,
they physically take up too many slots to pull off something like that now, I feel like.
I feel like it, yeah, but also, I mean, we're increasing in PCIe lanes, so it doesn't really matter if it takes up too many. I feel like definitely we
No, no,
won't.
I meant like
Oh, okay.
physical, like slots, not like the
Ooh,
lanes.
that's also another.
Like
Yes.
three slots of your motherboard or four slots of your motherboard would be taken up by one GPU now instead of two.
Yeah.
Like you're
Okay.
actually like covering up the lanes. You know what I'm talking about? Unless if you're water cooling. It's not even about how many lanes there are. It's just that the case, there's not enough space for it.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like definitely also I feel like in the future we're gonna just have smaller cards. You know what I mean? Like I'm not
Hopefully. Not if Jensen gets his way, though.
no, not the leather man. Leather jacket, no.
Leatherman will not give us fast or cheap cards
I think the funniest side note, that video of him like in
in
Taiwan,
China or Taiwan.
and they were like
Yeah.
who they were so confused at who he was at first.
What he like requested a song, dude, is so fun. He was
The,
also wearing the leather jacket too. Like that
the
man is built
I
different.
remember they were like they came up to him and they were like, do you know who this man is? Like, because the people obviously didn't know who he was, and they were just like Jensen,
Hmm.
Jensen. I was like, this is hilarious.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, on a side note, like kind of moving on, the 4090 has not had an FE drop, so the Founders Edition drop, uh, since almost a month now. So it hasn't dropped since the November 3rd, and concern when we're recording this, it's December 1st, and it'll probably go out December 2nd, hopefully.
second, third, yeah.
Yeah, so it's been like a whole month, but right now, if you look at that link I just put in there, there is Founders Editions listed on Micro Center. You can't buy it, but like it's on their site, unless if they took it down already. I
We'll
think they
see.
might
Yeah.
have. But is the Founders Edition coming to Micro Center? Because that's been exclusive to Best Buy for a while now.
I did not know Founder Edition was exclusive to Best Buy. Not gonna
Yeah,
lie.
because that's why the online drops are so hard to get.
also feel like, I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal if it's at Micro Center because just how small Micro Center is compared to Best Buy. Like it's
Well, no,
kind of,
it's not even about
well,
that. It's just like
yeah,
now you'll be able to get it in store because Micro Center only does in store. At Best Buy, you had to get it online. Oh, it's already off their site. So maybe it's
good. That's
coming
like to hear.
back to in store hopefully. Maybe that deal with Best Buy is ran out. Uh but yeah, like that's pretty interesting. The what's it called? Oh, why am I blanking? The shoot. Oh, so the Founders Edition being dropped online was like a really big issue, obviously. And a big thing of it was Nvidia has been like sending out these links to people who have purchased cards before, right? Being like, "Oh,
Yeah,
you're a verified real person. Here's a special link to get access to this Best Buy drop," right?
yeah.
And a lot of times people open the links and there's just not enough cards. Like they're not even sending out the right amount of people links. Like
Yeah. Well, I guess
it's
yeah,
crazy. Also, if you go to Micro Center, you can see 4080s on shelves because they're priced so bad.
just like to see.
Fun fact. Yep.
Cards not selling.
Dude, it's hilarious the fact that they're not able to sell a graphics card like in this day and age. Like it's so hard to get them, but they're so like they're priced so bad that people are just like, I'm not touching it. And I'm glad people aren't like actually have a spine for once. Don't buy the car. But yeah, moving on to our last topic. Uh we are entering what I think is a new era of monitors. So one, there's new QD OLEDs. They're not impressive. Same panels, different features, still bad prices. But more importantly, I shouldn't say bad prices, worse prices than the current ones that are out. More importantly, uh, LG unveiled two OLED monitors. One is a 27-inch 1440p OLED at 240 hertz, and one is a 45-inch 1440p OLED at 240 hertz with a super tight 800 R curve, like extremely tight. Initial thoughts on these? I know you're not a big monitor geek, so I want to see what you think.
I like that. Well, I'm also a 24-inch type person, right? But
Yeah,
um, that
your
first one
days are
definitely
over.
looks. I do like that first one. Those specs do look nice. OLED 240,
Hmm.
144p. That's definitely a nice looking monitor. I haven't looked that much into it, but like, I mean, LG does make good stuff, right? And also,
Yeah.
do you have that LG monitor? Remember the one from Micro Center? Like that was like not LG. It was like a different brand. Do you understand what I'm talking
No,
about?
that was Acer and A
Acer.
Open.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I mean, the OLED has to make it look nice. And then
Yeah.
what's the response time right now?
Yeah. So OLED is almost instant, right? And
Uh-huh.
they're like most people measure LG's OLED TVs at like 0.16 to point 0.3,
Okay.
which is like
That's
insanely fast. Like when
yeah,
you see
no.
1 millisecond on a box for a monitor, right? That's a lie. It's not actually 1 millisecond. This is genuinely sub 1 millisecond when most monitors average around 4 to 2,
That's
like
yeah.
high end gaming monitors. So getting 240 hertz, perfect. Well, not I shouldn't say perfect, but like way better colors, way better detail, way better blacks at 240 hertz. This is literally going to be the best competitive gaming monitor in the world. People will not adopt it because it's not a bigger hertz number and because it's not a BenQ, but this will literally be the best monitor for CS:GO and whatnot. I'm not even kidding.
Good stuff. Yeah. I don't even.
It will
I've
just be
honestly.
so fast and the images will be so clear and the response times are going to be perfect. It's great. Like we're getting fast OLEDs. It's like exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, I've not heard about. Uh, it's been so long since I've heard Ben Q's name. I also know for
They actually
CS:GO,
released a
yeah.
new CS like a monitor that all the CS:GO pros will switch to not too long ago. They
I
released a 360 hertz with their patented backlight strobing, which is great. The Diac Plus stuff, that stuff's fantastic. But this is gonna be better. Like it just is. Unless if they catastrophically mess something up or put terrible panels in it, it is just gonna be better for motion. Because yes, you're getting more information with those, but this picture is gonna be so clean. And the second OLEDs start hitting like a 300 or 360 hertz mark, it's gonna be over. You're not gonna get the same type of clarity, like even from like the upcoming like 500 hertz TN panels that Asus is about to put
Yeah.
out.
I know also BenQ, but BenQ's like losing market share and stuff that's not monitors because they just like I know their mouses and stuff, right?
They've been completely passed up in
Like
mouses.
Logitech Superlight is like the most dominant mouse in CS:GO. I know
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah,
Like they
by
just
far.
like because obviously like the latency is lower now, right? On like wireless.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
like
but to
it's
be
just
fair, they've held strong. I know a lot of it's because it just like CS:GOs are very like they refuse to switch
yeah.
a lot of times, but like they uh they're holding strong in monitor market share though.
No,
CS:GO.
definitely. But I
It's
feel like
still like
yeah.
if you look at all peripherals, right? The ratio of people who use the BenQ, what is it, XL25K, I
Okay.
think, uh, to other monitors is a higher ratio than any other peripheral to any other peripheral in all of CS:GO. It's the most dominant product in CS:GO.
Yeah, but I feel like yeah, definitely monitors. It's easier. Well, not taking away from BenQ, right? Because it obviously makes some
Mm-hmm.
good monitors for that type of stuff. But like it's,
Yeah.
I feel like monitors is where it's something people don't change from, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
you know it works. You know like the ghost, or you know what I mean like you're used to the monitor. Because like with mice, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can have like a mouse, not like it, swap to a different mouse. Like if I'm a pro, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you like can customize it, but like a monitor's a type of thing where like it's very hard to switch a monitor. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm. And also, like, if there's a
yeah,
bunch of those BenQs lying around, like, you don't really carry a monitor around with you.
exactly. Yeah. So like it's just like obviously it was I mean they're at 360 and they have like anti-ghosting technology, so obviously they're not just making bad products, right?
Oh, definitely not. No, they still are definitely the best. At least TN monitors. There is one monitor which is technically a little bit better, which is Asus's newest one that's 1440p 360 hertz. That's
Hmm.
technically the fastest LCD panel we've ever seen.
Yeah.
But it's 1440p, so it's a little bit harder to run, and it's 27 inches, which is not their preferred size because they like the 24 and a half inch size in Pro. So
24
they're
inch.
still dominating the Pro scene for sure. But like when it comes to visual fidelity for your home, if you somehow have $1,000 for the 27 inch or $1,300 for the 45 inch ultra wide, this is the way to go for sure. You're literally getting the best of every world, and they come with the remote for some reason. But have you seen how tight that 800R curve is? Like, look at the images, dude. It's so tight, the 800R curve.
800. Yeah, okay.
800R is extremely
Mm,
tight for a curve. Like,
it shows me.
Samsung's
Oh
tightest curve a
wow.
lot of the time, right?
Yeah.
On like the Odyssey G9 is around 1000R. And people thought
Okay.
that was crazy. So,
That is
it's
quite
extremely tight.
ridiculous because you want so bigger number is more curve or less curve? It'd be less, right?
Smaller number, more curved.
Because radius, right? It's like a radius
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. 0.03 response OLED. So OLED's like the it's different from TN and IPS, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then
Oh, so there's no backlight, right?
yeah, because
So
yeah,
yeah, so every pixel makes its own light because they're
it's
organic.
OLED. Yeah.
And so what you do is you run a voltage across the pixel, and certain voltages will cause them to change color. So yeah, it's the same thing as an LCD, really, except they can make their own lights. There's no need for a backlight, and the organic material that they use for it is way faster at switching, like way, way, way faster.
Okay. Yeah. That
And the thing
sounds
is, you don't
yeah.
need like Diac, like BenQ stuff, the backlight strobing,
Mm-hmm.
because there's no backlight. There's
Yeah.
nothing to strobe. Like this thing will just not ghost. It just won't. Like their TVs don't ghost, and those things have way higher input lag and run at 120 hertz. So this thing is gonna be crazy. Or these two monitors, I should say. I'll leave both of them in the description. If you want to look at it, I don't know what's going on with the 45 inch. The thing is like $1,700, and I don't know when it releases. But I know. Oh, sorry, December 12th is when the 45 inch releases, and that's for pre-orders. And then I think December 8th is when the 27-inch releases. And you can like sign up for a list to get notified and then buy it, and they should ship out late December. Uh, but my like final question to you is: 5 years down the line, right?
Yeah.
Will you buy an OLED monitor? Like you graduated, got a job, you do it for leisure, but you can afford getting good stuff. When if a monitor like that 27 is 240 hertz costs like $500, are you getting it over everything?
Ooh. I mean, yeah, if I have a CS job, definitely. Because at that point,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like,
By the way, CS does not mean Counter Strike. That's He'd start my computer science.
yeah. But like, because I feel like, what do I have? I have 144, 1080p,
You have 140
TN.
or
Yeah.
1080p TN. Yeah.
So like, like once I graduate, I mean, I'd get the OLED. Like, it's also because like I feel like at that point, maybe we're gaming less or whatever, but like, like you can just watch stuff. You know what I mean? Like everything's just like actually
Yeah,
just
that's what I'm saying.
better
It just
quality.
all around
Yeah.
is good. Like not only is it better for gaming, it's better for every single thing.
Yeah, I mean, 5 years will be better on top of what we have now. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
I,
Yeah.
there's gonna be some
My
nice
big thing is,
technology.
right, how fast is QD OLED gonna catch up? Because
Okay.
if you can get QD OLED up to 240 hertz, that's just gonna be jaw dropping. Because you still get the instant pixel response times. You don't have to worry about burn in as much. The
Yeah,
image retention is lower. And on top of that, you get better color and brightness. So like my dream monitor, right, would be like a 24 and a half or 27-inch QD OLED, like 360 hertz, 1440p. That sounds crazy, right?
that would be good.
But we're
That,
getting
yeah,
closer than you think. And when that day comes in like 5 years, I'm going to line up and get that monitor.
good stuff. Aerospace
But yeah,
will
that's
pay well.
yeah. Hopefully, I probably not. But yeah, this so that 34-inch, I'm not sure if it's the same panel as like. Have you seen that Corsair Flex monitor?
Yeah, I want to say yes. I think I've
The
seen
one
it
that's an
before.
OLED but like bends. Like a bunch of people made videos on it last month, but it isn't orderable yet. I think it might be the same panel as that, except it's not bending. uh, but yeah, um, yeah, that's pretty much it though for this episode. Leave a like, share it if you're one of the two people that watches it,
Good stuff. Mhm.
and we will leave everything we can in the description. Leave our handles down there, or like our, I guess, media handles. If you have any questions or anything, leave in the comments. And that's pretty much it. Bye.
See you guys.